So hello. This is just for the entire sort ID thing. I'll try to explain it as good as possible. So, first step. Well, you obviously play a seed. Let's take my seed that I use 2K9H 9HN. Now you have the invisible choker. The invisible choker let's make a table. Here we have the number of activations, so how often has it been activated so far, and here we have the value. So the first time invisible choker is activated, so you sell it when it's appropriate, the game will generate a value. The value lies between 1 and 0. Let's stay with the 1 and 0 stuff for now. I could try to expand that a little bit, but let's say with between 1 and 0. For example, 0.3. The second activation is, let's say, 0.1. A third activation might be I don't know, 5, 5. Just any value between 0 and 1. This table, up to the 1 millionth, I don't know, however many activations you have, this is completely determined by your seed and by nothing else. So the ante you're in has no effect on it, as far as I know. So now let's look a bit more into how the entire invisible duping works. Assume you have 5 jokers that could be copied. Well, I'm not known for drawing very beautifully. So let's say that this one has sort ID 1, this one has sort ID 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 jokers, this is the lowest, this is the highest. So far so good. The problem now, the way the invisible joker now determines what is copied, well, if it's 0.3, it would put this entire thing, or I mean, you could multiply it out, but let's really not do that, and say this is now the entire spectrum from 0 to 1. Well, if it's divided into 5 parts, because we have 5 copyable jokers, this would be 0 to 0.2. This would be 0.2 to 0.4. This would be 0.4 to 0.6. This would be 0.6 to 0.8, and this would be 0.8 to 1. So in our first activation, we would get 0.3, which would lay somewhere around here. Thus, we would get an additional second joker. So far, so good. Let's now imagine the second joker is also copyable. Is there? Yes. I did not want to mark, I wanted to erase. Yeah. So now we have an additional copy of 2. However, this 2 here is only a 2 with a... How can I draw? No. Is only a 2 with a star. So internally, because it's generated after all the others, this is actually not a 2. I mean, it's a copy of the second joker, but it's actually the in number 6, because, well, it's generated after all these. So now you would have, assuming that all of these are copyable, and let's just ignore negatives and stuff like that. So let's really say all of these are copyable. Well, let's imagine we put them all on a scale from 0 to 1 again, divided into 6 parts. So we would have from 0 to 0.1666 here, 0.1666 to 0.3333 here, 0.33 up to 0.5 here, up to 0.6666 here, up to 0.83333 here, and up to 1 here. Well, we get 0.1. 0.1 now falls between 0 and 0.16666, so we would get another copy of this one. So let's say this is now 1 star. 1 star is again wrong. It's just a copy of the first joker, but it's not really the first joker. And again, I make the same mistake. It's actually rather the 7th joker. 7th joker as it's generated after. Now, for the third, let's do it a final time. I mean, you can expand this to however many you want. Well, let's divide this into 7 parts. So from 0 to 1.4 to 2.8, 0.28, 0.42, 0.56, 0.70, 0.58, 85, sorry, 85, and then to 1. Well, we have 0.55. Here was 28, here was 42, here was 56, so we would fall here, so we get a copy of number 4. Well, so this is how the entire invisible joker works in principle. It's if you never stop the game, but I just want to see if anyone is actually in my Twitch stream and might be interested in what I have to say and might have any questions. No one is. Okay, that's great. So if you never actually stop the game, then all the sort IDs you might add later here will increase. So from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. This is also the bug fix that the mod Ankh does, as it just simply makes sure that something that is generated after does not have a smaller sort ID than the lowest thing that is there. So far so good. Now comes the problem with the bug abuse. If you now find out that, for example, in the first instance where we were at the 0.3 part, let's go back to this one actually. So in this instance, you realize, okay, you get a 0.3, so you know you would hit the second joker. However, you wanted the third joker here to be whatever is your second joker. You could then do the following. You get your first joker, or just before you get your first joker, you increase, you do some re-rolling like I've done in one of my videos, and you get this number to be extremely high. So, wait, let me just mark it. Where's the marker here? So you want this one to be your target for, I don't know, whatever those 3 would be. This one would be your target. You want this. So this one needs to be in this slot. Well, for this to be in this slot, one of these needs to move to the right. The easiest one would be to do number 1. So if you have number 1, you could re-roll 1,000 times with another profile like I've done to increase its sort ID. With this increase in sort ID, this one might not be a 1, this might actually have an internal sort ID of 1000. Then you restart the game. After restarting the game, you then obtain this joker. After it has been reset, well, you have your joker with the sort ID 1000 here. Then you obtain this joker, which now, thanks to the reset, gets a very low sort ID as the counter has just been set to 0. This one gets the next sort ID, this one gets next sort ID, this one gets next sort ID, and so on and so forth. If you now take a look, by the way, imagine as if Invisible Joker would try to sort them before it's actually hitting them. So for Invisible Joker, it always puts them in order. So as soon, although they might be ordered like this in your Joker slots, Invisible Joker would, when it's trying to do the scaling, do something like this, put the 1000 here. I hope that makes sense from an explanation standpoint. Let's call this 1000 star, as it's not the real 1000, it's just where it would be placed instead of here. So then, okay, 0.3, if you mark all those intervals again, 0.3 lies here. So you would copy this joker, which is exactly your target. Okay, so far so good. So you managed to copy it once. Now you see that your next target is extremely low, like 0.1. How can you abuse that? Well, your jokers now are, well, the one with 1000, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and well, now is the part. While resolving the invisible joker, if you now resolve the invisible joker without any restarts, you would get the 5 here. 0.1, well, if you sort again the 1000 star appended here, okay, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jokers. See where the 0.1 would lie? Well, just like before, it would be here between 0.0 and 0.16. So far, so good. But you do not want the 1 to be copied. We said we want the 3 to be copied, so imagine this one is Cola. And you want as many double ticks as you can. Well, we would have to find a way that the joker that is now copied, which needs to have the lowest sort ID, well, we need to generate this joker. What could we do? Well, this is now why this is so skillful, because it needs really big thinking ahead. If we would then have to go to this part and start all over and manipulate it. So we might still start with a joker which we really increase to 1000. Makes sense so far, hopefully. I just make it cross, so that's now where we are. So second iteration of implementing how we get the second invis to work. We have this joker of 1000. Now we know that we need to restart at this point. So we still have the joker with 1000 in our hand, and we would like to now collect our future jokers. However, we know that in this step, we now need a new joker that we want to be copied, which would be this number 5, to be actually placed in front, as this is what will be copied with the 0.1, the lowest. Thus, we need to think a tiny bit ahead. So we have the 1000 joker, and we now need to increase the sort ID of all of those by a bit. Let's say we reroll for a bit, let's say 100. So we would have 101, 102, 103, and 104. These are our hidden sort ID values, which we manipulated. If we now do the run again, well, our first activation of Invisible Joker Mm-hmm. I just append the 1000 star back here. I really hope that makes sense the way I do it, as I do not want to mess with an unordered list and appeal to general understanding. Well, we have the 1000 star at the end. This one is still at the 0.3, so it would still hit this one, so we could generate one of those. So for the first row, we still have a check. Now, how can we hit the second row? Well, we do generate another joker now. So just before you sell the invis, you could restart. If you do that, well, the new invis you would generate because of the reset would have the sort ID 1. So then the jokers in your hand would have 1001, 101, 102, 103, 104. And now, because here, before you used your invis, you restarted, the joker that you are now generating has the sort ID 1. Okay, great. So now you have a second copy of this joker which you wanted. So far so great. Now let's say the third entry. Okay, 0.55. 0.55. Well, if we do them all in one row again, uh, how about I just write them down here in order already? We have 1, we have 101, 102, 103, 104, 1000. So this is in order. Well, we have 0.55. I actually made a mistake with the 5. Oh, I don't want to start all over again, but I really hope it makes sense. Assuming these are all the jokers you have right now. So, so you have 6 jokers. You have one of the copies is one that you really want, because this one is one that you really want. Then here you will copy the 1. Well, after restarting, so you got actually a 2 here. I should actually move everything off here to the right, so it makes sense. I hope someone will actually follow me. So we have a 2 here, then the 101, 102, 103, 104, and 1000. So far so good. We know 0.55 will hit because we're in 7 parts, the interval between 0.42 and 0.56. So here's from 1 to 0.14, so from 0 to 0.14, 0.14 to 0.28, 0.28 to 0.24, 0.24 to 0.42, sorry, and 0.42 to 0.56. So we would hit this one in the original. Is the 102 the one that we want? Yes. So we actually do not need to do anything for further manipulation of the fourth one. If we now, without any restarting, would sell Invisible Joker, we would get a number 3, which would be a copy of the 102, which is what we wanted to copy. Yeah. So just to clarify, we want to copy the third joker that we usually pick up. We then decided, okay, the invisible joker will hit the second highest sort ID, thus we move the first joker we pick up to the right. so that this is what we target. We then know the second activation would hit extremely low. So how could we get an extremely low joker? Well, by restarting the game before we sell invest, because as you sell invest, the joker is generated. So you could generate a joker with an extremely low sort ID, but you then have to move everything to the right so that the sort ID, well, starts at the beginning. Thus, this step is exactly this step. You restart, you generate a new joker. Sorry, this one is the first generation, this one is the second generation. So this one, and yeah, I hope that really makes some sense. And now here, since we already have the correct joker, this is one of the ones that we wanted, we can simply use the third activation as it already hits the correct. If we want to go one step further, so just a reminder, this is a correct one, this is a correct one, and number 3 is a correct one. Well, let's say the fourth activation is a really high roll, like 0.99. Let's use this one. Well, this is how far we are. We could then do the following. Right now, 0.99 will hit whatever is the highest sort ID that we have. The highest sort ID that we have is this 1000. Okay, this is not one of our targets. One of our targets is the one with sort ID 1, the one with sort ID 2, the one with sort ID 102 or 3. This is the original, first copy, second copy, third copy. Yeah, we could do it in the following. Just before the third copy, so this is the state just before the third copy. 102, 103, 104, 1000. So this is the state just before the third copy. You could restart, but the restarting would reset the counter, so it wouldn't do anything. But instead of restarting, you could artificially increase the counter by a lot by re-rolling another profile. I don't know, doing safe scumming with fool, anything that increases the counter. So let's say you increase the counter by 10,000. Well then, the new joker you just generated you will generate does not have the sort ID 3 instead. So 2, 101, 102, 103, 104, 1000. This one, because we increased the counter that is now generated, will be at, let's say, 2000. Thus, we manipulated this 3 to be a 2000, and now the 3 is not a low value, it is actually a really high value. How can I actually scroll here? Ah, okay, like that. So if we were to activate from our table, which is determined by our seed, the fourth activation, well, we have a 0.99. If we think about what 0.99 is in this list, well, it's the highest one. So we would hit this one. If we do not restart, we would get, let's say, 2001. So this would be another copy of whatever we wanted. 2, 101, 102, 103, 104, 1000. So now we have a total of the original, the first copy, second copy, third copy, fourth copy. So now you have 4 copies that correctly hit. If you do not ever restart, well, what would we get? If we just take this example, well, we would get a copy of the 2. How can I write this down? without any, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After the first activation, we would have basically a 2-star, which has the internal value of 6, which is a copy of the 2. So this one is not correct. After the second copy, which is the really low roll, we wouldn't have an additional copy of a 1, which has the internal value of a 7. 5, 5, 2 star slash 6. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. After the third activation, we, well, what was it? 0.55. So to 1, 0, 14, 28, 42, 56. So we would have a copy of this one. So we would get 4, which has the internal value of 8. And if we rule the fourth one, well, we get another copy of this one. So 4 star slash 8 slash 9, sorry. That's a 9. 4 star slash 8. 1 star slash 7. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you see what you got now here without any adjustments of through restarting and manipulating the sort ID, we wanted to get as many 3s as possible, and we got an additional 2, we got an additional 1, and we got 2 additional 4s. So absolutely useless. If you limit yourself to selling jokers, well, you could say, well, 0.3, maybe with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.3, well, if I sold, let's say, the second joker, well, we would have a 1, 3, 4, 5. In this case, we could have the 0.3, that the interval would be 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. So we would hit here. So in this case, we would get, I call it 3 star slash 6. So here, by selling a joker, you actually made it hit the correct one. But here, you did not even have to sell the joker, so you could keep both. Let's see how limited we are here, if I can make this work. So 0.1, this one I think is only possible if I sell the 1. So selling the 1 would mean that we have 3, 4, 5, 3 star slash 6. Well, selling the 1, then if we copy the joker, we would get a 3, 4, 5, 3 star slash 6. And here we would now get another 3 star slash 7. Here we have 0.55, 0.55. When we have this interval would hit as of right now here. If we were to sell any of the first 3, they would all move to the left. Let's, I don't know, sell the 5. We would then have 3, 4. Sorry, I wanted to sell the 5. So this one is gone. We would then have 3, 4. Well, we have the 3 star. and the other 3-star. Here, if we do the interval, well, 0.55 is after 0.5, so we are hitting the 3-star. So we would get an additional 3-star slash 6, 3-star slash 7, we would get 3-star slash 8. So we could get another 3-star here. And here the fourth one is really easy because the highest joker that we would hit is already the one that we want to hit. So we could simply activate it. 3-star slash 6, 3-star slash 7, 3-star slash 8, and now we simply activated it, so 3-star slash 9. So, what's the main difference now? Well, if you do not use the sort ID bug, if you do not use the sort ID bug, well, you have the choice of either not hitting correct targets, or you potentially have to sell chokers. If you take, for example, this example that I've given here, and you remember my seed, so the 2K 9H9HN, well, the first two chokers I basically pick up are negative per KO and negative tree bullet, and I really want to keep them, especially doing the entire invisible choker stuff. So I really do not want to sell them. However, if I want to copy, let's say, a blueprint or a cola, and this would be the 3, well, as you have seen here and here, the only chance to get this to be the lowest or the second lowest was if I sold one of the first two chokers and then the other one. So basically I would have to sell in my run the negative per KO and the negative tree bullet to be able to get 2 extra colas. Also, I do not know what joker number 5 would be, but if that's also something that is worth it, to get an extra cola here, I would have to sell it. This is the only way, because this is how invisible joker would work in this case. If you now understand everything and how to manipulate it, like I did, well, you could do all these manipulations, and then at the very end you can see the difference. Well, here I still have all the jokers I have from before, especially my negative per KO. Negative per KO was our very first joker, which we turned into 1000, so the negative per KO is this one, which does not appear here anymore. And I also still have my negative tree bullet, which I turned into the 101. So I still have all of my amazing jokers, but also managed to get all the copies that I want. And this is the power of the sort ID bug. I hope that makes some sense. I will finish the stream now so you can see it, and I hope you can make this understandable to anyone watching your video. Bye!